This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health. Dr. Joel Wallach. Change the scenes. Take it away.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Daily with Doc. And we have a very special show today. One of our co-founders and co-authors, and Rebecca, we're going to tell her story. She's got a great story. And this story of Rebecca's is going to help young people, both males and females, how to, what should I say, be the best they can be for their family, for their community, for the world. And I really get excited about this because this is what the purpose of the program was, to make sure that everybody has access to information that can make them the best they can be so they can contribute to their community and to the world itself. And I could go into a lot of stuff, but I think many of our people here, listeners, are ready. I just want to make sure, they know about all the stuff that we need to be doing for our kids. The school's just about ready to start. And so, we need the kids toddy. We need to make sure before they're conceived, before the mothers can conceive them, she needs to be taking all the vitamins and minerals. And so the medical doctors, the OBGYNs, the medical doctors, family doctors need to be making sure everybody's getting what they need so that the little girl babies don't think they're boys and little boy babies don't think they're girls. This happens because what was missing prior to conception. This didn't happen because a kid watched a movie, okay? And so with that, I could go on and on and on, but I'm going to turn this over to Rebecca because she has such a great story. I don't want to miss a beat. So Rebecca Dukes, take it away.
Well, Dr. Wallach, thank you so much. So we had a little twist of the beginning of our show, and you did absolutely fabulous. Thank you, Doc. Man, my story. So I've been asked a lot about my story and figured since Dr. Wallach mentioned it on yesterday's show that, hey, no better time than the present to be able to share my story. And my story goes back many, many years. In fact, at the age of 8, I was diagnosed with scoliosis. I ached all the time. And I just figured everybody had aches. Oh, Mom, she had me walking around with half a broomstick behind, to pull back my shoulders, and was doing some modeling classes where they talked about that string that, pulls you up straight and keeps your head straight, and, really working on trying to straighten my back. About that same time, I had my very first migraine. And that migraine happened when I was at school. I remember being picked up. I remember going to an emergency room. I remember a shot in my hiney and waking up a few days later in my bed. And that was kind of the beginning of constant headaches, where I was always taking either aspirin or ibuprofen. And then the doctor was also saying, okay, more calcium. So Mom bumped up my Flintstones, bumped up my calcium, going about. And since all of the adults around me were complaining about this or that, I didn't want to be a complainer. But as I was going through, I loved baseball. I could hit, I could throw. But when it came to that running, the intense sharp pain in my ankles and my feet and my knees, Grandma just told me it was growing pains. Grandma was a nurse, so I figured she knew exactly what she was talking about. And she would rub down my legs, and we'd use a lot of some of those over-the-counter creams for pain relief, and more ibuprofen and Tylenol and all those things. But they didn't seem to help, and the growing pains never went away. I remember having cousins visit, and we would go up to the snow bowl. It was off season, so there was no snow, but it was still pretty cold. And one of my cousins, she and I hung back because we couldn't keep up with the rest, who were very athletic. And she had been diagnosed with juvenile arthritis. Well, I was almost thankful, and I feel really bad for that, because I couldn't keep up with the others, but I was able to stay back with her, and that helped me. When I was 16, I got really involved in band. I wanted to be in the marching band. We did a lot of traveling, but the pain in my knees was so intense that after appointments with orthopedic doctor, he wanted to do surgery because I had calcium built up on the back sides of my kneecaps. Well, I didn't want to do that. And I'm so glad that Mom was not supportive of that, because that could have opened me up to a lot more problems. And the pain just continued. And I kept, plugging through, doing whatever I could. I was allergic to pharmaceuticals as far as painkillers go. So I was super, super excited and thankful for that. Not excited, but now looking back, very thankful, because I didn't develop any of those addictions or anything that came with the narcotic type pharmaceuticals for pain. And then as I'm starting my career, I had my kids, or started having kids. I wasn't able to give blood because my iron levels were way too low. I started my career. One of my career moves, I had to step away from because it dumped my blood pressure super low. I got moved to a different department where I got hit with what was thought to be an appendicitis, but through surgery, yes, my appendix was a little bit enlarged, but I also had cysts on my ovaries that burst. So I was dealing with that. And then shortly after that, I got moved to another department where I was working in the warehouse, which I thought was the funnest thing in the world. Got to drive those fork trucks. But I was bound and determined to get this tractor trailer up, the door up, and ended up locking the bottom 4 facet joints of my lumbar. Was excruciating pain. And so they did exploratory surgery because I was having a lot of pain in my abdomen. And they thought maybe that, ovarian, the ovaries or the fallopian tubes had twisted, something like that. They couldn't find anything wrong. So that was my first introduction to that, the importance of the spine, the nerves, how you get referred pain because of something being impinged or squeezed in the vertebrae, the spinal column. And it just went on and on, just trying to figure out, okay, what's wrong with me? Why do I have all these things going wrong? Why am I breaking down? I'm like 20 years old, 22 years old, feeling like I'm 80. And I just kept plugging along. I didn't look sick on the outside. I looked pretty good, thin, and doing what I needed to do to try to stay fit, and pushing through the pain. Then I moved from Arizona to California and just had the hardest time breathing. And I was diagnosed with having asthma. And that was not wanting to admit any weaknesses. So I silently went to the doctor after not being able to keep up with my counterparts, as I was working at a medical device manufacturing facility on the quality team. I was also on the quality returns team. And as we were getting things coming back to us because they failed during surgery, I vowed to myself I was going to figure out how to fix myself and how to never, ever end up having to be on that operating table. So I got looking into herbs and herbal medicines. Well, from that job, I went to becoming a full-time mom. And I loved working with my hands. I had my own herbal skincare line and doing things with herbs. And one day I was asked to help put a tin roof up on a wood shed. So I'm like, sure, no problem. Let's do it. That ladder ended up twisting, falling. I ended up tangled up in it with a lot of pain, but had to get up and continue my job. And the next day I went to the doctor because I was hurting so bad. And the x-rays, the little town doctor said, Becca, this is beyond my scope. I have to send you to the university. So we scheduled an MRI, got the MRI results back. And the little town doctor is thinking, well, there's this, you've got lots of wedged spines. And in addition to the scoliosis, there's so much going on. So I went over to neurology at the university. And as I'm waiting there, doctor walks in, looks at me, looks at his chart, and then walks back out. And then he comes back and he says, I'm sorry, but I thought I was coming in to see somebody at least 65, 70 years old, in very poor health, not I think I was 31, 32-year-old female, 130 pounds, 105'7". He's like, what do you take for pain? And I told him, what I would, because he said, you're allergic to this, this, and this. I see it on your chart. What do you take? He said, you have bone arthritis, head to toe, bone spurs on almost every joint of your body, in addition to compression fractures in your spine and the scoliosis. He's like, what do you take for pain? And I told him, I said, well, as you can see, I really can't take anything for pain, but I do take a lot of aspirin, ibuprofen, those over-the-counter things, which were really taking a toll on my liver and my kidneys. So after turning down kyphoplasty, surgery to inflate those discs back up, and the reason I turned them down is I have an aunt who was told by a surgeon, a back surgeon, that he was going to make her a new woman. Well, that one surgery ended up having 27 other surgeries trying to fix what he messed up. And I wasn't going to go through that. So I dealt with the pain. I dealt with looking into things, to what I can do for myself, to strengthen my core, strengthen my back. But the pain was still there. And it was about 2000, well, all through this time, I struggled being able to keep up with my kids, but I did the best that I could. I had very active kids. I was always there for them. And basically, I did whatever it took to get them to where they needed to be. But like in the winter, when there was snow, I had a hard time being out there with them snowing or playing in the snow. Then in 2015, a few years later, I was in a car accident, got rear-ended, added 5 herniated discs to my collection of things going on. And through all of that year of going through doctors 3-4 times a week, I had decompression therapy, I had trigger point injections, I had more MRIs. During those MRIs, it showed that I also had gallstones, I also had kidney stones. And none of the therapies that were going on seemed to help. Not the chiropractic. They added in some nutrition as well that I took faithfully. I'm like, I'm bound and determined to get through this. And I couldn't do, and I wouldn't do the pharmaceuticals because I already had kidney problems. I already had some things going on with my liver. I didn't want to add more to that. And as I'm laying there, because there was a time where I was bedridden. And well, my last pregnancy was just before my car accident, but my last pregnancy, I was bedridden. They were giving me injections. Through those injections, I added, and I think because of mostly the injections, I added 60 pounds with that pregnancy. And then shortly after giving birth to him, I added on another 60 pounds within just a few months. So I was 120 pounds overweight. I got up to 268 pounds. And it seemed like no matter what I had tried, it was adding to that. And okay, what's going on? What is going on with my body? I knew there was something going on. I was doing everything right. I was eating according to the food pyramid. I was grinding my own wheat, making my own food, staying away from those processed foods. We were growing things in our garden. We even had our own beef, being on a farm, our own chicken eggs. But there was still, I knew there was something missing. And those days of shortly after I had something starting to fall, I caught it to keep it from falling on my toddler. I tore a hip capsule. And this was just before my car accident. And I was a mess. There were days where my husband would have to roll me out of bed before he went to work at 5 a.m. because I couldn't roll myself out of bed. And he called me up one day and said, "Hey, look up this doctor." He listened to talk radio. He heard Dr. Wallach on a radio program. I'm like, okay, you hate doctors. Why on earth would you want me to look up a doctor? Until I listened, I looked him up. He was a veterinarian, of course. So I got listening to his philosophy and listening to, all of the things that he had done through pathology and connecting those dots with nutritional deficiencies. And I remember thinking, I look at the labels of the feed that we give our rabbits, our chickens, our beef, the horses, better than I do my own food. But then I wasn't doing a whole lot of manufacturing or eating manufactured foods and junk foods. So I didn't really think about it. But when I did start looking at even, the nutritional panels or the facts about all the different things, the ingredients that I was using in our own food, it was a lot of things missing from what Dr. Wallach had said and mentioned on the greatest lecture ever told, the Dead Doctors Don't Lie lecture. So I'm like, okay, I've tried everything else. I heard that he had some products. I looked them up. And I'm like, I've tried everything. I'm going to do the one last thing. And I am so glad that I did. Because through all this time, I had been dealing with migraines. And living in Phoenix with that bright sun, my everyday attire included brim hat and dark sunglasses. That was the only way that I was able to function. And I remember putting on my brim hat, and I'd forgotten my sunglasses, but I went outside to take care of the chickens, and I realized my head's not hurting me. I don't even have my sunglasses on. And I'm thinking, this is 2 weeks after taking these supplements. If this is the only thing that I benefit, it's so worth it. Well, I started to be able to roll myself out of bed. I could go from the bed to the floor without having excruciating pain from plantar fasciitis. I caught myself walking across the floor one day, not holding on to anything, no longer having pain from the torn hip capsule in my hip. I can get up and down out of chairs and other things that we have to sit down for without having pain. And it just started getting better and better. After my car accident, I had been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, fibromyalgia. Of course, the plantar fasciitis came before the accident. I had the pain from the herniated discs that radiated down into my hands, my fingers, my feet. I had been told through working, in fact, I changed careers doing a whole lot of data entry because of carpal tunnel, that I did not want that surgery. And it's like, thinking back, I even had the website Too Young to Feel This Old. Because I was young. I didn't want to feel old, but I did. So I did whatever I could to figure out what it was that was missing. And I found it when I found Dr. Wallach. So since finding him in 2017, 16, I have been able to let go of taking and relying on aspirin and ibuprofen and other over-the-counter pharmaceuticals. I have lost 100 pounds. I no longer deal with migraines at all. In fact, I've had a couple of headaches over the last 7 years, but nothing that I would consider a migraine. I can go up and down stairs without the fear of falling, either going up or down. I think some of you might be able to relate with that. And I can walk and keep up with the best of them. I no longer have problems breathing, no matter where I'm at, no matter what the altitude is. And I look younger. So to go from all puffy and old and my eyes dull to be able to feel vibrant and have my smile shine, not just through this, but also my eyes, I think are some of the best gifts that you could give a person. And that's why I do what I do, is to be able to share what I experienced with others. And it's because of Dr. Wallach that I was able to find that. And I want to bring Doc back on the screen with me, because Dr. Wallach,
I'm here. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. That's just the beginning.
It's just the beginning, and it's gotten better and better. And, I have so much gratitude for you, because if I hadn't found you, the first year that I moved to Washington, the first snow, I was outside, and my oldest brought my two granddaughters at the time. There was only two over, and I was outside playing in the snow and pulling them around on sleds and going up and down our hills. And my son said, "Mom, do you know how good it is to see you out here playing with my kids? Because I knew you couldn't do it when I was their age or even older. So you did. You gave me my life back, Doc. And I have so much gratitude for that. And I thank you. And it all had to do with good foods, bad foods list, getting the 90 essential nutrients, plus the secret sauces that I need, because I had so much connective tissue issues. And, the soft tissue, the hard tissue, the digestion. I also had a lot of digestive issues. And it's amazing, Doc, that when you make that decision to remove those things that are causing damage, and then to intentionally give the body what it needs to thrive, because I was barely surviving. And now I love the fact that I can say that I am thriving. And not only am I thriving physically, this has also opened up an opportunity that I can support my family financially. And we're not making any claims. This program is not meant to take the place of your primary care physician, nor are the products meant to treat, diagnose, cure any diseases. But folks, I was told that I had some genetic issues I would just have to deal with. And when I learned about this science called epigenetics, and Dr. Wallach being one of the founding fathers of it, this gave me hope that I didn't have to just deal with it, that there were things that I could do. And in the beginning, I'm like, okay, well, I'll give it a try and it might work. Well, it did work because I no longer have a metabolic syndrome or any of the symptoms related to it. Where I didn't have high blood pressure, I had really low blood pressure. I had blood sugar issues. I was obese. What are some of those other things, Doc? As I'm looking through here, I had the pre-diabetes, ADD, ADHD, hyper hyper irritability. But I really, really had to be intentional and not taking things out on my kids or husbands. Depression. I had clinical depression. And things just were not looking great. But now I'm very blessed, Dr. Wallach, that you allowed me to help with this book. And it does share some of my story in it. And I wanted to make sure that the good foods, bad foods list was easy to find. So we've got that on the back of the book. And, it's, you took all the work, you did all the work and made it simple for us, Doc. All of your research has not gone unfruitful.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing most of your. There's a lot more that goes to that. Okay, you're telling the core of the story, and of course, you've lost over 100 pounds.
I've lost 100 pounds. I can't say over yet, but 100 pounds.
Yeah,
I'm working on it still.
And you work 8-10 hours a day. You help people all over the world in 80 countries, and so the good Lord has chosen you to be one of those angels to do all this stuff because you followed the rules, you did everything right to recover from something that there's thousands of people die from every year, okay, in the industrialized world. So you're a blessing, and we cannot thank you enough for sharing your story. And of course, a lot of your stories in that book, Metabolic Syndrome, what should I say, epigenetics, Dead Doctors Don't Lie, Hell's Kitchen, Immortality. It's one of those things. This is so simple. What did people do 200,000 years ago? The Neanderthals, the cavemen. What did they do? Or did they get vitamins and minerals from doctors? No, there weren't any doctors back then. What they did get was minerals by eating wood ashes and coal ashes as a spice in their foods, but also they put the wood ashes and coal ashes into their gardens around the plants that they didn't have gardens, they didn't plow fields, but they liked certain things. And so they would put the wood ashes and the coal ashes around them, and they would produce more than the same plant 20 feet away that didn't get the ashes. And so this got into the old Bible 2,000 years ago, the land flowing with milk and honey, where the glaciers would grind up the rocks 10, 12,000 feet up in the mountains. And the dust that resulted from the glaciers grinding up the rocks was a white powder. Got into the streams coming down the side of the mountains. And from a mile away, it looked like milk coming down the side of the mountain. And so this is where people lived a long time. When you look today, the people who live the longest, okay, from Pakistan, they live the longest without doctors. They don't have any doctors in these villages. They may have 200 people, 500 people, no doctors, and yet they live to be 120, 150, 160. And that's because they're getting this glacial milk coming down from the mountains. It was glacial milk. It wasn't mother's milk. It wasn't camel's milk. It wasn't cow's milk. It wasn't sheep's milk, but it was glacial milk. And, glacial milk can have 3 minerals in it, can have 10 minerals in it, can have 20 minerals in it, 30 minerals, 50 minerals, 75 minerals, 100 minerals. Well, the glacial milk that has more than 75 minerals in it is the glacial milk that helps people live beyond 100. Okay. And so once you learn this, and again, we have it in chapter 14 of the book, Hell's Kitchen. We have it in chapter 11 of the book, Immortality. Okay. And then, of course,
I got you, Doc.
what? There
Hell's
you go.
Kitchen, Immortality.
Pick another one. What's your favorite one?
Oh, my favorite's Epigenetics.
Well, there you go.
And yeah, it's a big book, but and I'm one that I don't necessarily read for enjoyment. I read for knowledge.
Yeah, for information. How many?
For information.
Yeah, how many?
And
How many genetic diseases are there?
none.
None. You get an A+. There's no genetically transferred diseases. When doctors didn't know what something was, they would blame it on your genes, so they wouldn't have to say, I don't know. Okay?
Yep.
Because they wanted you to keep coming back for your symptom treatments for them, because nobody knew how to solve the problem. Okay? And I'm the guy who got rid of cystic fibrosis. Supposed to be one of those terrible genetic birth defects people. Got rid of cystic fibrosis. Mm-hmm. Got rid of muscular dystrophy, Jerry's kids. Okay, gave him all the information. He took it to the Muscular Dystrophy Association. They fired him, put a gag order on him so he couldn't tell the world. I got rid of.
Which that's a crime. That should be a crime. That's
criminal, absolutely criminal. And they're still trying to find a cure for muscular dystrophy, which I found when I was 9 years old. Okay, because muscular dystrophy in animals was bad because the muscles were the meat, and so they couldn't have that. And so we learned how to prevent and cure muscular dystrophy in animals, okay, with nutrition. And I took those nutrients, alfalfa pellets with vitamins and minerals added to it, and gave it mates that had muscular dystrophy. And within weeks, they'd get rid of their muscular dystrophy. We'd take Jerry Lewis out there, and he would just shake his head and write it all down, take pictures with these people and so forth. And then, of course, we also got rid of SID, sudden death syndrome. Doctors were saying the mothers were laying on the babies and suffocating them. They were dying of heart attacks because they were missing trace minerals that were required by the heart. Okay, we put all those in the baby before we sued them. We sued the FDA 8 times in federal court, won every time. Once we got those minerals put into baby formulas, the rate of the
kids
heart defects in kids, SID, sudden death syndrome, went to 0.
Yeah. And folks, you can find out all about this is the authorized biography of Dr. Joel Wallach, the Wallach Revolution. You can find this on his website, drjwallach.com. I'm working on getting them on the dailywithdoc.com website, but drjwallach.com. You can get a copy of his authorized biography and all of his publications that go through sharing what he found through over 30 or up to 30 or approximately 30,000 autopsies on over 452 different species. And one thing I didn't mention, Dr. Wallach, I did mention that, when I was young, I couldn't give blood. And I would occasionally try to give blood just because of my blood type. I could help so many people. It's universal. But after being on your program less than a year, I moved to a new town. I had made friends with the mayor. She called me up and said, hey, we're having a blood drive. You wanted to give blood? And I'm thinking, okay, hoping that it wouldn't be the same results, that at least I'd be able to give blood this time. Well, not only was I able to give blood, Dr. Wallach, they asked me to sit for a double setting of whole blood. And I've been able to do that every 6 months since. And I love that because I'm giving back to others something that I was blessed with, a type of blood that can help so many. But I wasn't able to because my iron levels were so low. And without even intentionally working on that, as I was working on the bones, the connective tissue, that was just a side benefit, Doc. So why working on my bones and my connective tissue would that benefit my iron levels within my blood?
Well, because your bones produce red blood cells, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it needs the iron to make hemoglobin for the red blood cells. And so it's one of those things where there's all kinds of sickle cell shaped red blood cells when you don't have enough iron and so forth, sickle cell anemia kind of thing. And it's one of those things where there are no genetically transmitted diseases. I'll repeat that. There are no genetically transmitted diseases. And whenever a doctor opens their mouth and says, oh, you have a genetic disease because 3 people in your family have it, well, that's because they're all eating grandma's recipes. They're all eating the same recipes and they live in the same town or whatever, same garden, same farmers, same land. Plants only need 3 minerals. We need 60. We need 60. Plants only need 3. And so you go back to the Neanderthals, 200,000, 300,000 years ago, they're putting the wood ashes into their food and the coal ashes into their food as a spice. They like that taste, but also the vegetables and the fruit that they liked, the fruit trees and the vegetables, okay, and the berries, they would put the wood ashes and coal ashes around those plants that are found out in the wild. And those plants flourished and gave more. And so they started consciously putting these wood ashes and coal ashes into the plants that they like to eat so they could get more. But they were getting more than just more volume. They were also getting the minerals into those foods. And so this is why they did so well 300,000 years ago without doctors.
Yeah, so more nutritionally dense foods. Now, you had just mentioned sickle cell anemia, which is said to be only of those of a Black descent, but there's thalassemia, which is the exact same thing in other ethnic groups. So you had written a book that I think is so important, Black Gene Lies. The things that have been said, and this has a lot to do with genetics and why people, they say that because you are of this descent that you have, or you can expect to have, or it's common to have these specific poor health conditions.
Yeah.
But this proves that to be incorrect.
Yeah, well, one of those things where my father was a professional athlete and he was a boxer, champion, world champion boxer. And I would go to the gym with him. And so I would see all these Black athletes in the gyms. And so I was kind of trying to mimic what they were doing and I'm only 3, 4, 5 years old. I'm mimicking what they're doing. And Theo Ratliff, great black basketball player, his career was over because he had bone-to-bone arthritis and doctors wanted to give him a double knee replacement, maybe even amputate one of his legs and put an artificial leg in. He didn't want to do it. He said, I'll just retire. Okay, they won't let me play anymore because of my changes going on here, but I'm not going to suffer through that. So he came up with the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack, which was our Healthy Start Pack, and I came up with the Gluco-Gel, which replaced the bone broth, which had been around for thousands of years. People would simmer bones all night in vinegar water, and they drink it the next morning. They're getting all these minerals from the bone broth. Well, by the time I came along, people were tired of stinking up the house by bone broth. They just didn't like it anymore, so they just quit. But I came up with the Gluco-Gel. I made Gluco-Gel. Okay, it's one of my personal products that I've made for myself and my dad and other athletes, including Theo Ratliff, and regrew his bones and cartilage and ligaments. And in 3 months' time, from June until August, he grew everything back. He got his job back, but he wanted something for energy. So I came up with the Rebound. Okay. And the Rebound, of course, was one of those things where There's 30 of these sticks in a box. I go through
Yep.
2 of these boxes a month, so I take 2 of these a day, one at breakfast, one at dinner time. You tear the end off, put it in a quart of water, and get something that looks like this. Okay, that's our Rebound, and it has 125 minerals in it. It has every known vitamin in it. Okay, and when Theo took that, okay, not only did he have more energy than all the other people on his team and all the other people on the other teams, but he just was such a vibrant personality. Well, after 10 years, he had earned over $100 million in contracts with basketball teams for a guy whose career was over because of the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack and because of this. Okay. And so we're so grateful. We have been helping athletes around the world since then. Theo goes around the world and lectures. And of course, we have CDs. His stories are in the books. So,
Doc,
yeah.
when I first got started, you had mentioned the Gluco-Gel. And I remember hearing in one of your lectures up to 15 per day. That's 5, 3 times a day.
Yes.
And you be one capsule per 10 pounds, up to 150 pounds. Of course, I was 268, but I wanted to take that full recommendation of 5, 3 times a day with the bone and joint pack. And I mean, I was able to get rid of all of the pain, all over body pain and discomfort from 2 different specific poor health conditions where trigger point injections did nothing for them.
So how long did it take for you to see that something good was happening?
Oh, well, it took 2 weeks before before my migraines went away. I'd been dealing with them for almost 40 years, between 35 and 40 years. So for something to take 2 weeks to get rid of, that's pretty impressive, Doc. And then to have after, my radiating pain that went down into my arms and feet completely gone by the
you had
7th, 8th week.
osteoporosis to the skull. You had arthritis and osteoporosis to the skull. And taking these nutrients, including the Gluco-Gel, repaired all that. And that's why all those problems were going away.
Yeah. And like I mentioned, there were times, most of my life, I was very timid about going up and down stairs. I didn't want to be seen as weak, so I still did it, but I was always holding on because when I didn't, I never knew if my knees were going to give out, if I was going to fall up the stairs, if I was going to fall down the stairs. And after being on your program and moving from the Phoenix area to Washington, found a beautiful farmhouse with lots of stairs. And I'm like, I love this. I love the fact that I no longer have to limit myself to a house with everything on one level because I didn't want to have to deal with the stairs, as it was too painful. So, now I get to, just love life, thrive. AJ was saying that he can attest to me being able to keep up with the best of them, as we did an event up in Newark, and we went into Manhattan, and we got like, I think 9 miles in that weekend, which is the most I had never ever had. And I had no pain, no achingness, not even afterwards. And I think that it's all contributed to being on the nutrition, being consistent with it, and knowing that I'm giving my body what it needs, not just to survive, but thrive. Now, Dr. Wallach, you mention your father often and how he, was a boxer. But something that people don't know, and I don't know that I've ever heard you mention it, maybe you have, but you have another relative, Otto Wallach, who has actually received a Nobel Prize for discovering and researching the terpenes in essential oils. And that's one reason why I really started promoting the essential oils on Mondays, is because of the findings that go back to somebody else that's in your lineage, where you're full of researchers, people that deserve being recognized for finding things that benefit humankind. And that's why I'm so proud to be on your crusade to save the world, Doc. And you've got this one, the 90 for Life Crusade to Save Humanity and the World with Dr. Joel Wallach. And again, you can get Dr. Wallach's books and publications at drjwallach.com. Now, Doc, we're coming up towards the end. We do have some questions. One of the questions is coming from one of our coaches, and she has a client. Let me pull this up. He's 5'6", 205 pounds. He does smoke, drinks occasionally. He has schizophrenia and bipolar. He has dermatitis. He's been passing out. He's been getting stabbing pains above his eye, and he used to get migraines quite a bit. He has had many times he's had some head trauma, but he has mental and emotional trauma as well. He's a plumber, and his body aches all the time, especially his feet. So, Doc, what would you recommend for this gentleman?
Okay, he weighs 200 pounds.
200 pounds at 5'6".
Okay, none of the bad stuff. No fried foods, no processed meats, no oils, no gluten, no wheat, butter, oats, no buckwheat, no sugar, no carbonated drinks. Even the diet one's got to go. And then he needs 2 healthy brain and heart packs per month, a full dose of everything twice a day, full dose of breakfast, full dose of dinner time. He also needs the Ultimate Daily Classic tablets. Take 3 of those at breakfast, 3 at lunch, and 3 at dinner time. That'll be 2 bottles a month, because he needs to have blood flow into the brain, into the heart, into the lungs, into the kidneys, into the liver, into the bones, into the muscles, into the intestines. Okay, that's what that Ultimate Daily Classic tablets will do. And then he also needs the let's see here. I would go with the what? Oh, I-26.
I-26, yeah.
I-26. Okay, that will rebuild the myelin, the white matter of his brain and spinal cord. And so all this stuff going on with his brain, memory stuff and anxiety and behavioral problems and so forth, this turns around pretty quick. Usually within 90 days, they're a totally new person. And sometimes quicker. Kids turn around in 2 weeks. And these are kids that are messing up in school. They can't even remember their names. They can't remember their address and all this kind of stuff when they're in school. And, in 5th grade, 6th grade, they should be able to remember their address, their phone number. They can't do it. You get them on the I-26, and usually within 2 to 4 to 6 weeks, they're perfectly normal. There's
a strong link between the gut and the brain.
I'm sorry, say again?
There's a strong link between the gut and the brain.
Oh, yeah.
So if your digestive system is all messed up, it's like you
can't get the stuff to the brain that the brain needs. The brain requires stuff, and if you can't get it through the intestines into the bloodstream, into your brain, then you're losing. Of course, there's about 25 common brain diseases that we can prevent and reverse, with the 90 essential nutrients plus the I-26 and the Ultimate Daily Classic tablets, the 90. About Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease used to be in America for 100 years. We had 60,000 new cases of Parkinson's disease each year in America. Well, the last year it's gone up to 90,000, went up 50%, because doctors were giving medication to get rid of some. What?
To lower cholesterol.
To lower cholesterol, right? To lower cholesterol. But you have to appreciate the white matter of the brain and the spinal cord is 85% cholesterol. Also, sex hormones, male hormone, testosterone, female hormone, estrogen is 95%, 95% cholesterol. And so when you start taking injections by the doctor to lower your cholesterol, to make the doctor happy, so you have low cholesterol, you're creating all these other lifestyle challenges that are caused by the doctor. Okay. And it's not a genetic thing. And then, of course, you're talking about MS, multiple sclerosis, ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. These are things that doctors are saying, well, there's nothing we can do about it. You know, it's a genetic thing. We can help you a little bit here. But no, we can prevent that. We can reverse it completely. Madeline, okay, Madeline, she's in her late 70s. She's been going through Parkinson's disease for, I don't know, 9, 10, 11 years, and getting to the point where the doctors are telling her family, look, this is the end of the game here. She's down to the point where she could not wake up tomorrow. Okay. And one of her relatives was a member of Longevity and asked me, is there anything we can do for her? So we came up with a program for her. And in 2.5 months, she no longer had Parkinson's disease anymore after 9.5, 10 years. Went away in 2.5 months. Do you think people were excited? Yeah, Madeline. Now she goes around and lectures and tells her story.
She's pretty excited, Dr. Wallach. So she doesn't do the whole lecturing, but she definitely shares with people she knows, sends them back to her health coach that was able to help her, and is very appreciative, Dr. Wallach, of what the nutrition was able to do for her, because the pharmaceuticals weren't doing it. And that's another amazing story that just goes to prove the importance of nutrition. Now, Doc, we do have a hand up. I want to ask one more question.
Okay.
And this will be a quick one. So if I'm taking the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, which includes 100 micrograms of selenium, is there a reason to take additional selenium?
Yeah, I would. Okay. Because it's in the what should I say, in that package, it's with all those other nutrients, and it may be bound
In the
up.
brain.
Yeah.
Right. So in the Tangy Tangerine, there's a little bit of the selenium, but then there's the Ultimate Tangy Tangerine that has lots of cofactors in it. Sorry, the Ultimate Selenium, which has many cofactors in it. Now, you did some research, Dr. Wallach, on selenium, and you actually received the Klaus Schwartz Award because of your selenium research. And that was one of the key factors in the muscular dystrophy. Also a key factor in ending sudden infant death syndrome.
Yeah, sudden infant death syndrome, cystic fibrosis, the selenium. And it's one of those things also, we were able to get rid of cystic fibrosis.
Yep. And so that was said to be a genetic disease, and you had proved that it wasn't. Well, let's go ahead and get we got this question. Let's see if we can get them to unmute. Miki, can you unmute yourself? I'm going to send you a request to unmute. So if you can unmute, that would be fantastic.
Yes.
Oh, yes. We can hear you.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, Master. I failed you. Ella died.
You have not failed.
No, I failed Master Wallach because we tried to make Ella a super centenarian, but I failed.
You tried to do what? I'm sorry?
I tried to make Auntie Ella a super centenarian.
Okay, so, there are some times where people's bodies break down so much that they're not, do they get to a point of no return, Doc?
Huh?
Which is important why we need to start supplementation early in life.
Yes.
So that we don't get to that point.
We need to start supplementation 6 months before conception. Mother needs to be taking vitamins and minerals 6 months before the sperm fertilizes the egg, not when the kid's 3 years old.
Right. I think Ella was up there in years, and had a lot of things.
Yes. She was 104 and started.
104.
Yes.
Okay, so she didn't make it to 120. She only had 16 more years to go. But I think 104 is still
It's very
a
respectable.
triumph.
Yes. That's what I try to become myself. For a person who survived scurvy and famine, it's not too bad.
Not too bad at all.
Yeah, 104
Not
years.
too bad at all. So, Miki, you have not failed,
Well, thank you.
and you're continuing to go.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Doc, there's some more here. We've got out on YouTube. Beach Time is asking, what do you do for sarcoma, a rare cancer that forms in the connective tissue? It can occur anywhere, but mainly appears in the arms and legs.
Okay, sarcoma is not a rare or uncommon cancer. It's a very common cancer. Okay, and as you say, it affects connective tissue. And so it's one of those things, it's what people are eating, how they're cooking, and what not. They're not supplementing with everything they need to give all their tissues what they need to protect themselves. Okay, sarcoma is a very common cancer. And of course, amputation is one way to get rid of it very quickly in the earliest of stages. Because if you get it where it's already gone from the original location to 3 or 4 or 5 or 8 or 10 other places, to try chemotherapy and stuff like that, enough chemotherapy to kill the cancer is going to kill normal tissue too. And so you're in trouble when you start getting cancers that spread to other tissues. So the goal here is to not get cancer, which means you got to stay away from all the bad foods, stay away from all the bad cooking, take all the 90 essential nutrients. Well, my doctor said I can get everything I need just by eating well. That doctor should have his or her license taken away, because you can't get everything you need by just eating well. Okay. And people aren't putting wood ashes and coal ashes into their food anymore. And so they need to be supplementing heavily. Now, this all changed after 200,000 years and 300,000 years. It changed. It's September 4th at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 1882, when the big universities, the big factories, hospitals, all kinds of people with money, they flipped the switches and went to electricity. And within 6 months' time, there were so many people dying of these diseases because they didn't have access to their wood ashes and coal ashes anymore.
Well, and the minerals not being deposited into the areas where the food was being grown because they were dammed up and collecting behind those dams. I mean, you're
talking about where the minerals are coming down the mountains, and they would dam up the rivers, okay, for electricity, okay,
yep.
And also for irrigation. And so the people who live behind the dams, they would actually collect that powder and that mud and stuff like that and use that in fertilizer in their gardens. But it didn't get downstream because they were taking it from behind the dams.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things, progress has some drawbacks to it. You get the cause and effect, Dr. Wallach, and we are at the top of the hour. I do want to do a shout out and a thank you for the kind words out on YouTube and here in the Zoom from Bianca, Alaya, Bruce, Sportis, Olga. Thank you, everybody. My heart's desire is to know that my journey can be used to help somebody else in going from barely surviving to thriving. Now, again, folks, this program is not meant to take the place of your primary care physician, nor is it meant to treat, diagnose, or cure any disease. But when we learn from Dr. Wallach through all of his work, his research, as a pathologist, not just reading books that somebody else wrote, but actually doing the work in the pathology lab, collecting all that data, connecting the dots, and then reporting it in his books. We are able to benefit from all that he has done in his short 85 years to help us live to that 120 years like they do in the Hunza Valley. If you were referred to somebody specifically to watch this show, get back with them. They took the time, they cared enough about you, knowing that there could be something in this program that would benefit you. We encourage you and invite you to give us 90 days. 90 days on the 90 essential nutrients plus secret sauces if you've got a lot of stuff going on, and you will feel a difference. So get back with that person that shared this program with you. If there's no one to thank, go to dailywithdoc.com. Don't go to any of those other online retailers that you think, oh, I can get this faster. Oh, I might be able to get this cheaper. No, because what you get may not be the authentic version of what Dr. Wallach and his team have put together. And if it comes to you, moldy, I'm sorry, but there's nothing that we can do. But if you start with us, we have a 30-day guarantee on all of the products that Longevity offers. We also have certified holistic health coaches to help you pick what it is that is needed to help you on your health journey and making those U-turns. And chances are the person that shared this program with you also is a certified holistic health coach or advocate of what Dr. Wallach has done and put together. So they are very important. Your first, first responder is the one that comes to my mind, because they do have valuable information that's going to help you on this journey. But again, if there's no one to thank, give us a call, 855-949-3377. Again, that's 855-949-3377. If we did not get to your question, or you have a question that you would like to get a response based on Dr. Wallach's research, you can send those into questions@dailywithdoc.com. That's questions with an S @dailywithdoc.com. And if I could get our co-hosts up on the screen with us, Doc, you know, they do a lot to help with this program and making sure that it's getting out, making sure that people are able to get into the program, which if you're watching the replay, you'd like to join us live sometime, you go to dailywithdoc.zoom.com. You'll be able to join us live. Again, that's dailywithdoc.zoom.com, Monday through Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific time. And we have with us today Albert, who's joining us from way down on the other end of this earth in South Africa, with his buddy Marty there. Yes. And Marty is actually a resident of his property. So thank you, Albert, for joining us and helping let people into the Zoom room. And we have Sherry, part of the tech crew, who helps with the setup. Somebody that's not on the screen, also part of our tech crew, is kind of playing triple duty today. And that is AJ, who is pushing the stream and also watching the different platforms. Sherry helps to watch those different platforms as well, bringing in those questions, as well as AJ. So thanks to both of them, part of our tech crew. I appreciate both of you. AJ actually is the one that helps us to get all those accounts set up and get the streams going to the different platforms that you may be watching or listening to us on so many different options. We just want to make sure that we can meet people where they're at. And we have Marilyn, who just does a fabulous job with dictation and putting information into the chat, which she has done, and that's only available if you're here live with us in the Zoom. So, folks, you can come on in, take pictures. If somebody asks a question or you ask a question, you'll have that recommendation put right there into the chat. You can take a picture of it, take it back to your health coach and say, okay, this is what doc says I need. And they will be able to help get that to you on the way. So we could not and would not be here without Dr. Joel Wallach. He has a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture in both plant and soil sciences. He is a Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. He has 3 postdoctorates in pathology. He is also a naturopathic physician, which he decided to become a naturopath after starting teaching nutrition courses at a naturopathic college. And he's also the founder of so many different poor health conditions and proven that they are not genetic. And even proven some of them are not just human. So folks, give us 90 days. If you'd like to get Dr. Wallach's publications, you could go to drjwallach.com and you'll find all of his books that are available at this time, plus some other audios that are available as well. And get back with the person that shared this program with you. And if you'd like to join this crusade and be part of a solution in helping others, make sure that you give us a call or get back with the person that shared this program with you. They're going to be your first contact. So let's not confuse anything. If somebody shared this program with you, they are your person. And if you don't have a person, we have a person waiting to help you at 855-949-3377. Thank you so much for joining us here on Daily with Doc. Don't forget to check out Pharmacist Ben Bites from yesterday. That is the 28th, because he talked a lot about connective tissue stuff as well, which is what a lot of stuff that I had going on in my body. And then tomorrow, we're going to be having Pharmacist Ben Fuchs on with us, and we are going to be talking about red light, blue light, nutrition, and how they can work together and what's the difference. Because I have a lot of people that say, oh, I just do red light therapy to help with that. Well, red light therapy, blue light therapy, that's not going to take the place of nutrition, and he's going to share with us why. So until next time, folks, my name is Becca Dukes, honored to be the hostess of this program. This journey has led me to also be the Director of Student Services for the Institute of Holistic Health, where we have a certified holistic health coach course that teaches about the 4 areas of health, how they're linked to nutritional deficiencies, or actually how nutritional deficiencies affect those 4 areas of health, with over 600 different conditions linked to nutritional deficiencies. We teach Dr. Wallach's philosophy with the Institute of Holistic Health, and you too can become a certified holistic health coach by going to coachwithdoc.com, and you'll be able to enroll and get started. Whether you want to do a business or just have the information for yourself, it's affordable. So come join us. Again, coachwithdoc.com. Till next time. Bye for now.
Bye-bye, everybody. All is funny,
Thank
best
you, Doc.
ends, lack of ray. Thank you.
This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach.